Hello everyone, welcome to my channel about writing stuff. My name's Camille and today we are doing another discussion video. We are going to be talking about the different cultures in Kushiel's Dart by Jacqueline Carey. If you haven't watched any of my previous discussion videos, basically what I do is hone in on some specific aspect of the story or the world or the character that I think this author did really well, and really dig into how I think this author did this sort of thing, just so that we can utilize it in our own writing. I do have another discussion video on the Tolkien Lewis plot point, and then I also have one on Patrick Rothfuss's how he builds tension in The Name of the Wind. So today we're going to be talking about Jacqueline Carey's cultures in Kushiel's Dart. But first, I want to start with a quick spoiler-free review because the discussion will have a lot of spoilers. And despite all the recommendations I've gotten to read this book, I couldn't find many vlog posts reviewing this book. And I'm sure a lot of you know why. So quick review of the story. It is about a girl named Phaedra. It's set in this, I don't know if it's secondary world with a French analog or if it's historical French fiction. I don't know, but it is very much a French style society, courtly society with different houses. And it's basically Phaedra's coming of age story. She is a courtesan in this community where both sex and religion are one. Their, I guess, cultural adage is love who you want, love how you want to love, this sort of thing. And sex is seen as worship in this community. So it's Phaedra's coming of age story, plus it's this political intrigue, plus it's like an adventure and like a hero's journey, and that's all in this one 900-page book. It is very exciting. However, I had a lot of people recommend this book to me because it's a sexy book with this, fantasy element to it, which is very exciting. But no one really told me about what the meat of the plot was, which is why it's taken me so long to actually sit down and read this book. Basically, the story is just full on, the steepest learning curve political intrigue story ever with, the classic, really hard to pronounce fantasy names. So, if political intrigue is not really your thing, then I wouldn't recommend this book because you would probably hate it. And I also recommend a pronunciation guide. I did not know how to pronounce Phaedra's name until, halfway through the book, so just that. Okay, now, if you haven't read the book, go away, because I'm about to jump into this very spoilery cultural discussion. Okay, so, for those of you who have read the book, now the thing about the cultures in this world is, nothing about the cultures really stands out compared to other authors' created worlds, except for the fact that this culture is very sex positive. It is, sex in religion, which I have personally never seen in fantasy. And then also there is this subculture within that culture of Phaedra being an Anguisette. Basically, BDSM, she receives pleasure from pain, and she's the only one of her kind. So that is really great influence on character, but I'll get into character inside the culture later. So the general outline for this culture is, there are the D'Angeline people. They are, I guess, kind of part angel. They're beautiful. They follow Alua. I'm going to pronounce things wrong because I did not look up a pronunciation guide, just so you know. And then there are the servants of Nama, who are the ones that are basically the courtesans, have sex. But then there are followers of other historical figures or angels or gods or whatever. Like Jocelyn follows Cassiel, so he's kind of a priest, vow of celibacy, all this kind of stuff. So that's, the general outline. And I definitely want to commend Jacqueline for going this route, because when anyone decides to include something like sex or sex and religion or any of these sorts of hot topic things into literature, you basically open yourself up for mockery and hate mail, and you also open yourself up to doing these things very wrong. You open yourself up to cultural misappropriation, to all of these just, gateways where you essentially become the victim of everyone's hate. So, and that was my fear going into this book, was that, there wouldn't be necessarily a story, that it would essentially just be a romance wrapped up in this secondary world wrapping paper with this misappropriated culture, which is not the case. So digging into the culture a little bit, when you create a culture in your world, you have the general outline, but then you want to layer things in. Every culture isn't just the shape that makes it. It is the small things, the rituals. And we see a lot of that in this culture, especially for those who serve Nama in Knight's Doorstep. There are the 13 different houses that cater to everyone's different tastes. Plus there are rituals and holidays, and there is like the mask events and all of this stuff. And, it comes down to different colors that people wear, family names in relation to the colors they wear, plus the color of their hair and their eyes, drinks that they enjoy on certain holidays, the thing where you light a candle to get pregnant, just a lot of little things, very ritualistic. And this culture is just very much about this: love who you want and how you want. But there are all these other different things going on that really cement this culture. However, I was still kind of skeptical about this world and going into the story, because when you build a world and a culture, no one really cares about that. What brings a world to life, or a culture to life, or a society to life, is how a character interacts and responds and comes into conflict with it. And that's why I think Jacqueline Carey did such a good job with this story, telling the story that she wanted to tell. First off, the story is first person, told from Phaedra's point of view. And as we know, she is the only one of her kind. She is the only one that has been touched by Kushiel's dart, whatever. She's the only Angusset. So that's a big plus. I don't think I would have connected with the story if it hadn't been in first person. So the big thing is that we see how Phaedra interacts with this culture. And right from the get-go, her mom sells her to Sarah's house, but Phaedra's all about it. She's like, I want to serve Nama. I want to do this. Even as a young girl, she is very sexual and just is not shy about any of that as she's telling us her story from later in life, I'm guessing. And it's just this really positive thing for her. But of course, I was starting to get worried again, because not everyone views their culture the same as another person would view the culture. Let's keep going with this. So I was starting to worry about this idea that everyone in this culture would just be, oh yeah, all about sex and the gods and it's great all the time, yada, yada, yada. But then her mark is bought by Delani. And then Phaedra meets Alcuin, or Alcuin, however you pronounce his name. And I love this, because where we have Phaedra, who just really wants to have sex and wants to experience pain for pleasure and wants to serve Nama and wants to get her mark. We have Alcuin, who, we don't know this at first, but as we get to know him, we realize that He agreed to serve Nama and join this service because of his deep love for Delani. You know, once he starts taking assignations or whatever, he hates it. And we have this miserable, beautiful young boy who is having sex not in an act of worship, which is the whole point of serving Nama. He is having sex with these people just to get information for Delani, which is really heartbreaking, but it's a beautiful mirror to Phaedra's point of view. You know, the thing with Phaedra is she loves this, she's all about it, and then we have Alcuin, who is just the complete opposite of that, and is just doing this in his loyalty and his love for Delani. And then we have Delani, who is playing this courtly game and really sort of figuring things out and finding out people's secrets by using Phaedra and Alcuin to get information by them having sex. So it's between these three characters. Oh, and Delani's doing this because of his promise to someone that he loved. So we have these three characters in this society where the adage is, you know, have sex to worship, love who you will, love how you want, love how you were made to love. And yet we have these three characters who, in a way, are all really suffering because of who they love and how they choose to show their love. And it's a really just sort of like screwed up situation, but the way that Phaedra tells us the story, it makes it very real and honest, you know, and that is the best possible, I think, compliment I can give this story, is that, you know, it is this sex and religion and, you know, pain for pleasure sort of idea, but it is the most honest rendition I think we could have gotten of this story. For example, when Phaedra and Alcuin go to the showing, they basically watch two people have sex for the first time just to see how it's done before they start their studies with Cecily. And Phaedra describes it pretty straightforward. You know, she uses all of the anatomically correct terminology. She names the positions and what they're doing. She describes her physical response to what she's seeing. But then she lapses into, it was so beautiful, I wept. And that is a constant theme throughout the story. And that really nailed this down for me, was this idea that Phaedra's just honest about everything because that's how she exists in this society. It's, they're having sex, I'm enjoying watching it, and it's beautiful. Just the worship is beautiful. It's so beautiful that I wept, etc., etc. So that is just a really honest way to tell a story. You know, we create this world and these cultures, but it's really about the character. It's about how the character sees the world and interacts with the world, and having these opposing beliefs in different characters. You know, we have Jocelyn too, who is a follower of Kushiel. He's basically a celibate priest, you know, it's completely different than Phaedra. And yet he's another one. He's getting himself into trouble because of his love for his vows and then his growing love of Phaedra. And then we have Hyacinth, who, same thing. He is Singano, he's the Prince of Travelers, but he gets himself into trouble because of how he loves and who he loves and how he chooses to show his love and all this sort of stuff. And it was really done really well. Like I said in the beginning, you know, Jacqueline Carey could have received a lot of heat for this. Maybe she did. I don't know. But it really was just an honest telling of a fictional person's story, which, if you've watched my previous videos, that's one of the hardest things to do in fiction, is to tell this memoir-style story from the point of view of someone who doesn't really exist. You know, those sorts of things are reserved for exciting memoirs, but no, this was done really well. One caveat though, and this is not related to cultures, but I did have a problem with like pacing. Despite this being a 900-page book, I got through it really fast, but I felt a lot of things lacking. You know, when Alcuin and Delaunay were killed, I didn't really get that emotion from her. When Phaedra is with the Scaldi and she's essentially raped by Gunter and Selig, I didn't get a whole lot of that emotion. I didn't really feel a whole lot of her turmoil between, you know, just the hatred plus the pleasure plus the pain plus hating herself and hating Kushiel for what she is and what he made her and all this stuff. When she and Hyacinth finally came together, I didn't really get that love. I just felt like we didn't get to delve into Phaedra's emotions as much as I would have liked to. And a lot of the stuff was very telly. A lot of telling where I would have liked more showing, I guess. And I don't know if that's just, you know, Phaedra's voice or if that's Jacqueline's voice. But, I mean, this book could have been broken up into 3 books. We could have had up until the point where Delaunay and Alcuin were killed. And then we could have had a book on the Scaldi. And then we could have had a book where she goes off to get what's his name from Alba. Yeah. I went through this book crazy because the pacing was super fast. But it did sort of not give me everything I wanted. You know, it's when Alcuin and Delaunay died, I'm like, that sucks. And I should have been feeling more for these characters by that point, but it wasn't there for me. The story was very entertaining though as a whole. That's just my opinion. So if you enjoyed this book, I would love to hear your comments on what you thought of the cultures, not just the De Angelines, but like the Scaldi or any of the other cultures you want to talk about. Do not read any of the other books, so do not put spoilers in the comments. Thank you kindly. And since this is just a discussion video, I don't have a resource this week, but I'll be back with one probably next week when I talk about more writing stuff. So that's all I have for you guys today. I post new videos on Fridays, and if you would like to request a specific video, you can tweet me at Camille A. Singer. But for now, as always, you should be writing stuff.